Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Donington Park for the penultimate weekend of racing for the GT Cup Championship. We've got some champions to crown over the course of this weekend, but whilst the 2020 season is coming to a close, it's an important weekend for the GT Cup because we are celebrating our 100th weekend of racing. That takes place here at Donington Park, but where did it all start? It all started at Snetterton in November of 2007. Let's look back at where it all began.
This is going to be for the non-professional drivers, drivers who are racing their own cars or are hiring a car, and who basically are doing it for their own entertainment and their own fun.
So it'll be flat out down the back there at about 165. So it should be good for me, but I've got to get braver on the corners.
Got the lights go out. Simpson slow away. Ruin gets all tossed up in the Ferrari. Simpson almost goes into the back of him as they charge down towards Riches for the first time. Colin Simpson, who charges past in the Marcos. And there are plenty of Ferraris. We had 24 cars entered for this first race in the series, and that is no mean feat. Synchronised spinning from the Ferraris there. And Andy Newton, who's not that experienced, has had a very good weekend so far. Colin Broster charges up the inside and takes the place away. Cold autumn day here at Snetterton, so there's not that much track temperature. He gets away with it there, has a big slide and then spins! The two 996 type Porsches up towards Sear. Broster has a go on the inside, he's going to go through. Wilkins comes back in though as they go onto the Revit straight. They're going to be side by side now, heading down towards the braking area. They've got Dave Shelton's BMW Z3M Coupe ahead. There's great variety in the GT Cup here. And look at the way that Chris Everald's going. The little Ginetta G20 scuttling along and looking for a place on the inside. So, Jim Geddy leads the Porsche 997, and all over the grass there goes Colin Broster. He's made a complete mess of the S's. He's needing a new tyre as well. Left rear having to be replaced on the GT Porsche. It's been an all-action weekend here at Snetterton in the GT Cup, and there are still battles to be resolved. Ferrari's running nose to tail here, for example, as they make the run down the Revit straight. Meantime, Porsche's battle on. Number 3 is Craig Wilkins. He puts a lap on the Bertie Carruthers driven Porsche, but he's also now got Colin Broster right up behind him. This is the fight for third place. The best lap of the race so far, incidentally, done by Mike Wilde, so the Ferrari's a quick round here, and Andy Ruin proves the point by going up the inside. He takes the place off Everald, he runs wide and hands it straight back. Colin Broster is on the outside. Is he going to be able to drive all the way around the outside? Yes, he can. Fantastic move. Look at this, though. Two Ferraris versus Porsche into the braking area and diving up the inside. Duncan Cameron gets himself to the head of that little gaggle of cars. There's another race still to come, but it looks as though he's going to put his name in the history books by winning the first round of the GT Cup. Up over the line he comes, checker flag at the ready. Jim Geddy wins at Snetterton.
So that's where it all began, back at Snetterton in November of 2007. And whilst the grids may look rather different today than when the series started, the championship still continues to provide strong and varied grids and some fantastic GT machinery. The changes are also in terms of, it started as initially groups 1, 2 and 3, and it's grown into the groups that we know today as the cars leave the pit lane. Group GTO, Group GT3, Group GTC, GTB, GTA and GTH are all the different groups that we have now. So the cars are heading out onto circuit. It is the final weekend of racing in the 2020 championship season for the GT Cup Championship. So as we head into our final weekend of racing, let's have a look at where the championship points are standing currently. So the championship points coming into the 100th weekend for the GT Cup Championship. Leading the championship overall, it's the Group GTA Ginetta of Josh Jackson and Simon Orange. Their team hard car is on 351 points. Second in the championship is another team hard car. It's the number 78 GTB Porsche of Sam Randon and Ben Claydon. They lie second overall in the championship standings, and they are on 320 points. And lying third in the overall standings coming into this weekend, it's the reigning champions, Steve Ruston and John Whitehouse, with their McLaren 570 GT4 that runs in Group GTH. The JMH Automotive pairing have 318.5 points. In terms of our group leaders at this stage, leading Group GT3, it's John Seal and Marcus Clutton. Group GTC leaders are John Dillon and Phil Quaife. Leading the Group GTB charge are Ben Claydon and Sam Randon, with Steve Ruston and John Whitehouse leading Group GTH, and the Group GTA leaders Simon Orange and Josh Jackson. In the Sprint Challenge, John Dillon has a commanding lead over Craig Wilkins and James Guest, and in reality just needs to finish the first race of the weekend. And in the team standings, Team Hard are leading overall from Scott Sport in second position. So the championship beautifully poised coming into this one. This is the first of our two sprint races of the championship weekend, and it could decide who is our sprint champion for 2020. Let's just guide you through the grid then. Pole position goes the way of number 4 and Graham Tilley with the Nissan. Alongside is John Dillon's Ferrari. Row 2 of the grid is John Seal at the wheel of the Lamborghini and the Team Hard Porsche of Sam Randon. The third row of the grid sees the Top Cats Racing Marcus Mantis of Warren Gilbert line up alongside Josh Jackson, and row number 4 is the second of the two, Marcus Mantis from Top Cats Racing, Charlotte Gilbert, alongside the Ginetta G55 of Harry Dawes. Row 5 of the grid, it's the fastest car from the Group GTH in qualifying. Number 38 is Matt Topham for this race, and alongside is number 1, the reigning champions, the JMH Automotive McLaren of John Whitehouse. Row number 6 is where we see the Make It Happen Racing Ginetta, Stephen Walton, and number 17, the Team Hard Ginetta of Patrick Collins. The next row of the grid is row number 7. Car number 6 is Ian Loggy with the Porsche Cayman GT4 alongside the number 34, Harry Yardley Rose. Row 8 of the grid is number 80, Scott Sport Ginetta of Craig Wilkins alongside the similar car but the Feathers Motorsport machine of James Guest. Row 9 of the grid, nice to see him back in the championship, the reigning Group GTB champion from last year, David Franklin with his Porsche, and car number 888, which is the Jeff Steele Racing BMW of Richard March for this race. And the final row of the grid is row number 10, which is where we see number 72, the 2018 champion Chris Murphy alongside the Century Motorsport Ginetta G55 of Alex Stevenson. So the cars lined up on the grid in terms of the Sprint Championship, because that's what we're going to concentrate on for this one. The car on the outside of the front row of the grid is John Dillon. He's the only car this weekend that is entered in Group GTC. Because of that and the way the championship regulations work, means he doesn't score quite as many points if he wins his group. However, if he does simply take the checkered flag and finish this race, that will be sufficient for John Dillon to stitch up the GT Cup Sprint Championship for 2020. So he just simply needs to stay out of trouble if he can. He'll want to try and win the race, that's for sure. The weather conditions, a little bit chilly out there, a little bit autumnal. We can see the spectators all wrapped up, but it is dry. That's the important thing. The weather forecast is scheduled for rain later on today. So John Dillon would ideally like to get everything done and dusted in terms of the Sprint Championship today, and therefore not have to worry about the second of the two sprint races that will take place tomorrow. So there's Graham Tilley's car lining up on the front row of the grid, the car that runs in Group GT3, so it's a full GT3 specification, ex-Bob Neville Nismo, the GTR GT3, which claimed wins last time out at Brands Hatch. Been an awful season really for Graham Tilley, partnered regularly with Will Tregertha, but Will's not available today. He will be joining Graham for tomorrow's pit stop race. So Graham Tilley on his own in this sprint race. Will have Sam Neary joining him later on this afternoon when we go live with our second race of the day, the pit stop race that takes place later on. So the car's off and on their formation lap. As you can see, the huge variety that we continue to get in GT Cup with the likes of Nissan, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, Marcos and Ginetta. 6 different manufacturers represented in the top 6 positions on the grid. We've also got Aston Martins and McLarens and BMWs amongst the marques that are represented, and that has continually been the case since way back, as we saw on the introduction to the programme. Since 2007, the GT Cup Championship has always provided enormous variety amongst the manufacturers that are represented across all of the groups that we have nowadays as well, and the technical team doing great work to balance the performance of all of the cars with a mixture of front-engine cars, rear-engined cars, normally aspirated cars, forced induction cars, whether it be turbocharged or in the case of some supercharged as well. But a great deal of technical work is done to try and balance the performance of the cars. This first sprint race of the day is going to be a 25-minute race. Graham Tilley's Triple M Motorsport TechServe supported Nissan starting from the front row of the grid on this rolling start. John Dillon in the Scott Sport Ferrari 488 alongside. That 488 does not run to GT3 specification, it is a European Challenge specification Ferrari, so it runs in Group GTC. The second row of the grid is that light green Lamborghini Huracan in the hands of John Seal. John has been competing in the British GT Championship in this very car sporadically throughout the course of the season. That car runs to full GT3 specification, and the leading Group GTB car in qualifying lines up alongside, which is the Team Hard Porsche that's currently second overall in the championship standings. So the pace car is about to peel its way into the pit lane. We're about to go racing for the first time this weekend for the 100th race weekend of the GT Cup Championship. Away we go. John Seal gets a really good start. Graham Tilley is a little bit slower away, and the Lamborghini, I think, is going to have the inside line as they charge their way up towards Redgate Corner for the first time. Graham Tilley tries to brave it out around the outside as they turn their way through the first of the right-hander. The 2 GT3 cars were absolutely together. Graham Tilley runs wide, however, on the exit of Redgate Corner, picks up the dust and picks up a bit of dirt on the tyres and drops down to 5th position. So it's John Seal that leads the race at the wheel of his Lamborghini Huracan, heading in towards the old hairpin for the first time. But everybody is safely through the first couple of corners in this first sprint race of the weekend. There's Craig Wilkins. He was a driver that was present and was competing at the first ever GT Cup race, as John Dillon now looks for the lead of the race there. Almost got himself the Ferrari up the inside as they went in towards McLean's corner, but it is still Lamborghini from Ferrari. Then in 3rd position, it's Sam Randon that sits there in 3rd place. 4th place is Warren Gilbert. So it's worth watching out for the gap between Porsche and Marcos, because that would be the lead battle in 3rd place for Group GTB. John Seal can't see the car moving around on the brakes as he came in towards the Roberts chicane for the first time. Graham Tilley, the pole sitter, quickest in qualifying, but work to do following his slightly grassy moment as they charge their way over the start-finish line, and now in a straight line. The extra power of Graham Tilley's GT3 car tells, and he rather effortlessly sails past Charlotte Gilbert's much lesser powered Marcos Mantis, but still a great car, that Marcos Mantis. And I'm afraid to say that is David Franklin is off. That is the outgoing GTB champion who has had a part season in GT Cup this year, but I'm afraid the 24/7 Motorsport car is off at the Robert chicane, and I'm afraid it's not in the safest of places. The Inter-Ginetta battles, always one to watch out for as well in the GT Cup Championship. There goes the number 34 car. That is Stephen Chandler's Group GTA Team Hard Ginetta G55, trying to apply the pressure to Stephen Walton's Make It Happen Ginetta that lies just ahead. James Guess is bottled up behind the pair of them. Not all of the Ginettas run in the same group. Those two running Group GTA, the pair behind running Group GTH for the full GT4 compliant cars. But the safety car, I'm afraid to say, is heading out onto track because of the stricken Porsche of David Franklin, so they will have to just pause their battle for a short while. We'll get that Porsche out of harm's way, and then we can get racing back underway once more. So early stages of this 25-minute sprint race. Out comes the safety car. It has come out to catch the leader, so that means that we will have the queue fully formed before too much longer behind the safety car, and then once we get the Porsche out of harm's way, we'll be good to go racing once more. In fact, there is the stricken Porsche of David Franklin. Former radical racer was David, and joined the GT Cup Championship in the middle part of last year, and so far this year has attended a fair chunk of the races, David Franklin, but unfortunately, having missed the Brands Hatch round, he returns to Donington Park for the final weekend of racing. and it hasn't really gone to plan for him. Poor old David Franklin out very early on in the race on the very first lap, where he obviously had a problem heading through turn number 9, in reality, the right and left flips of the Robert chicane. But lights are out on the safety car, which means the course is clear, and we are going to be able to get racing back underway with just over 18 3/4 minutes of the race that will remain. Now, John Seal got a really good start. What's his restart going to be like under safety car? John Dillon is right with him. No overtaking until they reach the control line, but Lamborghini leads Ferrari. Porsche under attack from Nissan, and as they head up towards the braking area for Redgate for the first time, it's Graham Tilley that's been able to sneak through and ahead of Sam Randen's Porsche. So the more powerful GT3 Nissan ahead now of the Group GTB Porsche, and that's moved Graham Tilley back into the podium slots once more. Down through the Craner curves, John Seal trying to make good his escape whilst under pressure from John Dillon's Ferrari. The Ferrari is going to get caught by that GT3 Nissan that will have perhaps a little bit more grunt in a straight line. Will certainly have slightly better aerodynamics as well, I would have thought, in terms of aerodynamic grip as they head round through the corner sections. But John Dillon is no slouch at all. He's been racing Ferraris for a very good number of years, both in the UK and in mainland Europe, and has done some winning this season in the GT Cup Championship. He is trying to attack and defend at the same time. He is looking to try and squeeze his way through into the lead, but also mindful of the fact that if he tries it and it doesn't come off, he might just lose second place to Graham Tilley's Nissan. 3 as 1 in towards the braking area for the Robert chicane. This is lap number 5 that's about to be completed, and it's still Lamborghini from Ferrari, from Nissan, the top 3, with the Porsche of Sam Randen not that far away either in 4th place. Onto the brakes and in towards the right-hander at Redgate, the first corner that starts the lap, and there's contact there. John Dillon makes contact with the tail end of John Seal's car, rotates the Lamborghini through 180 degrees. John, of course, then has to dive onto the grass to try and get the Lamborghini pointing back round in the right direction, but wet and damp grass is not ideal. That was just the lightest of touches. I think there might just be a very slight telltale mark of damage on the front of the Ferrari. But John Dillon was the man who just inadvertently, I'm sure, just caught the tail end of the Lamborghini, and John Seal will be, I'm sure, not overly happy about the fact that there was just the lightest of contact between the pair of them. But the race continues. John Dillon leading from what is Graham Tilley now in 2nd position. And if you think it wasn't that long ago that Graham was down into 5th place as they went down through the Craner curves for the first time, well, he's now looking to try and attack for the lead of the race, and we're only on lap number 6 at this stage. So John Dillon, Graham Tilley, Sam Randen in the Group GTB leading Porsche sitting there in 3rd position. So 3 different groups represented inside the top 3. It's a Group GTC car that leads, a Group GT3 car 2nd, a Group GTB car that's there in 3rd position. Now remember, John Dillon, if he just simply sees the checkered flag, he should have done enough so as to claim the GT Cup Sprint Championship for 2020. But of course, if there has been a little bit of contact between himself and John Seal, the officials might just want to look into that. Let's hope that it's not something like that that maybe affects the overall championship standings at the end of the season. John Dillon, in the meantime, will be more conscious about the fact that he just wants to try and hang on to the overall race lead if he can. 4th place is going to be Warren Gilbert, the Marcus Mantis there in 4th place. And 5th place is a good battle actually going on for 5th place. Harry Dawes in the Ginetta leads Group GTA, is under attack from Charlotte Gilbert's Group GTB Marcos, and the Group GTH leading Aston Martin, the number 38 car there in the hands of Matt Topham, is in the mix as well. So this is a good little fight that's going on for 5th, 6th and 7th places. So they are just working their way out of Coppice Corner, heading down Starkey Straight and in towards the braking area for the Robert chicane. The McLaren's not that far away as well. That's the championship winning car from last year, which is John Whitehouse, sharing with Steve Ruston once more over the course of this weekend, lying 3rd in the overall championship standings of the pair. Up towards Redgate Corner, the nose dips on the number 99 Charlotte Gilbert driven Marcus Mantis. She'll be sharing the car in the pit stop race later on with her husband Warren Gilbert. I think it's the first time they've actually raced together as husband and wife in the championship, and I think probably one of the only few occasions we've ever had husbands and wives over the course of the 13-year history of GT Cup race together as well. And that's for the race later on this afternoon. For the moment, Charlotte will be more focused on hanging on to what is 6th position, dropped from 5th to 6th place last time through, as the white Ginetta in the hands of Harry Dawes grabbed the opportunity to move a place further up in the standings. So up towards Coppice Corner, in towards the blind entry double apex right-hander. Windscreen wiper going for Patrick Collins. I don't think it's raining just as yet. The forecast certainly gives rain for this afternoon, and now side by side for the lead of the race has Graham Tilley got up the inside of John Dillon's Ferrari. They go side by side through Redgate Corner, and John Dillon's just forced a little bit wide on the exit of the corner, and through goes the Nissan to take up the lead of the race. So Graham Tilley now grabs the opportunity to lead the race. Graham claimed a couple of victories overall last time out at Brands Hatch, and what's been a difficult season really for the Nissan, which finally came good on the Sunday of Brands Hatch, winning both the sprint and the pit stop race 2 weekends ago down at Brands Hatch when he shared the car with Will Tregurtha. Will be sharing the car with him tomorrow, as we said. Can't make it to Donington today. And as for John Seal, after his spin at Redgate Corner, he is now trying to carve his way back up through the field. So the number 55 Lamborghini Huracan was up to 15th place last time through, but has gained another couple of places this time through. He carves his way past James Guess's Group GTH Ginetta, and that should put him up into 13th position now, the Lamborghini. Spots of rain on the cameras as well, so I think there is a little bit of moisture in the air. It's certainly scheduled to be a very wet afternoon here at Donington Park. For the moment, slick tyres and pushing hard means that the tarmac is still reasonably dry. The odd little damp patch, as you can see, in particular just heading in towards the braking area for the Roberts chicane, which is where John Seal is working his way through now. There's a place change, the Ginetta number 212 in the hands of Stephen Walton, dropping down through the order over the course of this lap. He's lost a couple of places now. What's that, 4 places lost on this particular lap, so I don't think all is well with that Ginetta, and he's now coming under attack from Craig Wilkins, man who was on the grid for the first ever race and was competing in it back at Snetterton in 2007. So through goes Craig Wilkins up the inside going in towards Redgate Corner. On the way out, Stephen Walton tries to fight back but can't really have enough momentum. I don't think all is well with that Ginetta, and that's why that car is now down to, what, 16th position. What's the further place? So it's lost 5 places in, what, a lap and a half. So that might be possibly a car that's going to limp its way round for the remaining just under 12 minutes, or possibly might even have to call into the pits for some attention. Out of Coppice Corner goes the car of Stephen Walton. Here we now see once more Harry Dawes, who has gained another place by the look of things, so that's past the second of the 2 Top Cats Racing Marcos Mantis cars. So Harry Dawes leading Group GTA quite comfortably at the moment at the wheel of his white Ginetta. So that moves Harry Dawes up into 4th place. Warren Gilbert drops down into 5th position. John Seal still trying to carve his way through the order. More windscreen wipers going, suggesting that conditions are now just starting to deteriorate a bit more. You can see a few more spots of rain on the camera lenses as well. John Seal is now up into 6th position at the wheel of that Lamborghini, which means that Matt Topham at the wheel of the Aston Martin GT4 now drops down into 6th position, 7th position, but will still be leading Group GTH at this stage. So 10 minutes of the race to go. How much further up the order can John Seal get the Lamborghini? The next car that he's going to want to try and carve his way past is going to be the number 3 Marcos Mantis and Harry Dawes' Ginetta. So they're the next couple of cars he's going to be tasked with trying to work his way through and past. John Whitehouse at the wheel of his McLaren also coming under pressure as well. That's the number 67 car that sits behind, which is Josh Jackson for this race. Now, Josh Jackson and Simon Orange, remember, come into this weekend on 351 points, leading the championship overall at the wheel of that number 67 Ginetta, tucked up behind the McLaren, and currently running 2nd in Group GTA, which is another good haul of championship points for the Team Hard pairing. Out of Redgate Corner, down through the Craner curves. John Seal still pushing hard at the wheel of his Lamborghini, from 7th up to 5th at the end of that lap. So, using all of the curbs, but no more, round through the old hairpin. Goes the championship winning car from last year, the McLaren 570. Here, though, is the car that leads Group GTH, which is Matt Topham, trying to put the Warren Gilbert-driven Marcos Mantis under pressure for what is 6th position, actually. So the car that runs in Group GTB being hunted down by the Group GTH Aston Martin that's behind. The pair of them heading round through Coppice Corner. Speed starts to build as they head down Starkey Straight and then in towards the braking area for the Roberts chicane. This is lap number 13 that they are about to complete. You can see it's a good train of cars. John Whitehouse still under pressure from the Josh Jackson Team Hard Ginetta. It just can't unpick the McLaren. Gets a good run on it this time though. And this is potentially important for the championship. It's the McLaren that lies third overall in the championship points that's got the overall championship leading car sitting behind it. They're in different groups, so if the order shuffles, they won't actually take championship points away from each other. But it may be there's going to be something that is up for consideration for pride more than anything between this pair. You can see the windscreen strips tell you the groups that they run in, and there's a different coloration to them as well. Group GT8, it's an orange windscreen strip header. Group GTH, it's the red one. So up towards Coppice Corner, and there's John Seal. Oh, he's just about got away with that. That's up at Coppice Corner. He had charged his way back through the order. He had just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 7.677. John Seal. He was up into 4th position, but dropped the Lamborghini into the gravel trap at Coppice Corner. Now has to wait for a gap in the traffic to be able to rejoin, and that is going to undo all of the hard work. He's going to be back down, I think, to 12th, maybe 13th position by the end of this lap. So big train of cars heading through the Roberts chicane. That's 6th through to something like 11th position there. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th place by the look of things. Huge train of cars. And John Seal, where's he going to come through in the Lamborghini? He's going to come through, I thought it might be 12th, it's not, it's something like 15th, 16th position. In fact, he's heading into the pit lane by the look of things. So John Seal, having had a first spin, maybe not of his own making, but the second spin, I suspect, probably was in what are tricky conditions out there. You can see the windscreen wipers still going on the likes of Patrick Collins and his Team Hard Ginetta, whilst he tries to keep the sister car to it of Stephen Chandler behind. That will be a fight for 10th and 11th places. Coppice Corner, championship leading car, still looking to try and see if it can move in ahead of the champions from last year. So Josh Jackson looking to try and unpick the McLaren of John Whitehouse, but not quite able to do it just as yet. And it's just allowing the front three in that little train to escape away a little bit. Warren Gilbert followed by Matt Topham, and then Charlotte Gilbert. Back out of pit lane comes John Seal. So a quick check over by the crew. The thumbs up given by JMH Automotive that he can continue in the race. But that does now drop him off the lead lap as up towards Redgate Corner. Charlotte Gilbert is trying to unpick Matt Topham's Group GTH leading Aston Martin. At the moment, the Aston Martin is the meat in the Marcos Mantis Top Cats Racing sandwich. Down through the Craner curves, Warren Gilbert, Matt Topham, Charlotte Gilbert, all three together. And by the look of things, we have had the change there. The Ginetta's made it through with a good little move there by Josh Jackson, able to sneak up the inside of John Whitehouse and the McLaren. So the overall championship leading Ginetta now goes ahead of the car that lies third in the overall championship standings. So they haven't taken points away from each other, but for bragging rights, that will certainly put a big smile on Josh Jackson's face, and he's now tasked with more work to do to try and work his way through. The two Team Hard Ginettas side by side as well. We saw that didn't quite work out as they intended at Brands Hatch, and now that, by the look of things, is Stephen Chandler, who has got a good run here and has the inside line on Patrick Collins. Is he going to brave it out on the brakes and sneak his way through? Yes, he does. Position gain there, so through goes Stephen Chandler. Losing a place is Patrick Collins, and that was for position in the group as well. That now moves Stephen Chandler up to third in Group GT8. Patrick Collins drops down to fourth in the group, and has also been given a 5-second penalty for exceeding the track limits as well, so as to add further salt in the wound. So we've got just under 5 minutes of the race to go. Charlotte Gilbert coming under pressure from Josh Jackson, who is going to squeeze the Ginetta up the inside of the Marcos, heading in towards the old hairpin. Another place gained for Josh Jackson. That now moves him up into 7th place overall, as he manages to pick the pocket of the Group GTB Marcos. And that is the Team Hard Ginetta, I'm afraid, that's off. That is Stephen Chandler, just having gained a position over Patrick Collins and gaining 10th place. He's dropped the car briefly into the gravel, should be able to recover. That's going to drop him again a long, long way down through the order in what are tricky conditions out there. Wind's blowing, feels very autumnal, there's rain in the air. Grip is not exactly at a premium at the moment, but I think the conditions are just changing lap after lap, corner after corner. James Guess under pressure from Ian Logie. Ian we've seen a lot of in the British GT Championship over the course of the last few years. But this Cayman GT4 that's been prepared by Into Racing in the hands of Ian Logie is pushing James Guess very hard for what is third position in Group GTH. James Guess defending the inside line on the run up towards Redgate Corner. The Ginetta, one of the older GT4 specification cars, it's all about momentum in the Ginetta. Parks the car on the apex of the corner, which means that Ian Logie can't as yet manage to squeeze his way through, and they've also got the race leader beginning to bear down on them as well. So in towards the braking area for the old hairpin. This is for 11th and 12th position. 3rd and 4th in Group GT8, the race leader catching up with them as well. Graham Tilley now leading by 4.5 seconds from John Dillon's Ferrari. But what he will be tasked with is a couple of squabbling Group GTH cars lying directly ahead of him. So the GT3 specification car looking to try and get past the GT4 spec cars. Had to dive on the brakes a little bit earlier than he wanted to, Graham Tilley there, but just waiting. He's got the power, he's got the ability just to pick them off on the exit of the corner, which is what he does now, and rockets his way through and past the pair squabbling for what is 3rd and 4th in the class. 5th place in Group GTH isn't that far behind either, which is Craig Wilkins at the wheel of the red Ginetta. So the race leader over the start-finish line. He will now be onto his, well, not quite anti-penultimate lap, I would say. The lap he started and 2 more thereafter for Graham Tilley, I would have thought, before the end of the race. And we're just comfortably controlling the gap. He's worked his way past those 2 back markers. John Dillon in the Ferrari has got 3 cars between himself and the race leader, so John Dillon has got the work to do this time through to try and thread his way through the squabbling pack. Is he going to do and overtake any of them on the way into the old hairpin? No, not quite. Might pick Craig Wilkins off on the exit of the corner. He's then got these next 2 to deal with as well, which is James Guess and Ian Logie, who are having a really good battle. Flashing lights for Graham Tilley, trying to forewarn the next of the cars that he's coming through, which is Patrick Collins. John Dillon, in the meantime, has got the Ferrari ahead of Craig Wilkins. He's now going to try and pick off Ian Loggie's Porsche on the run-up towards Coppice Corner. Ian Logie stays out of the way, loses time to James Guess, and that now actually almost drops the Porsche Cayman into the clutches of Craig Wilkins. And then John Dillon strokes the Ferrari past James Guess's Ginetta as they head along Starkey Straight that time through. So through the Roberts chicane, 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining. It takes about 1 minute and 8 to do a lap, so we're now on to the penultimate lap of the race. And remember, for John Dillon at the wheel of that Ferrari, all he needs to do is take the checkered flag, and if he takes the checkered flag, he'll be the sprint champion for this year. We've still got this great fight going on though. 12th, 13th and 14th positions. It's 3rd, 4th and 5th in Group GTH. James Guess under pressure from Ian Logie. Ian Logie in that dichotomy, he wants to attack, he's certainly got to defend as well, because he's got Craig Wilkins right behind him. Craig, who's done at the wheel of this red Ginetta, has done a chunk of racing in things like British GT in the past. We've seen him in Blancpain, we've seen him in International GT Open, but it's great to see him back in GT Cup, because I say he's one of the drivers who was on the grid for that first ever race at Snetterton back in 2007. John Dillon still trying to pick his way through the traffic here, John. Now he needs to be careful. All he needs to do is see the checkered flag, and subject to official confirmation, he'd be the GT Cup Sprint Champion for 2020. Slides his way past the Marcos Mantis of Charlotte Gilbert and now has clear track ahead of him, heading on to what should be his final lap of this first race of the weekend for the GT Cup Championship. So through the Roberts chicane, James Guess still under pressure from Ian Logie, the Porsche still trying to pick the pocket on the Ginetta. Ian Logie a little bit slow through the Roberts chicane, so Craig Wilkins then ends up on the grass on the exit of the corner. So they're all getting close to each other. There was almost little bits of contact between them, but they just managed to avoid each other that time, and that grassy moment, I'm afraid, cost Craig Wilkins a chunk of time in what are now, without question, ever deteriorating conditions. You can see the cars moving around all of the time. The tarmac getting wetter now. The race leader almost making a mistake. Craig Wilkins does make a mistake up at Redgate Corner as well. So as conditions deteriorate, it's affecting a few drivers, and Craig Wilkins was a driver who was lying second in the Sprint Cup Championship, and it looks as though that spin is going to cost him quite dear, because John Dillon, who is leading the Sprint Cup Championship, is leading his group. As the heavens start to open ever more, you can see the breeze getting up as well. The car's almost at a crawling pace compared to what they were earlier on in the race, but for Graham Tilley, he just needs to make sure he gets around the final couple of corners. And for John Dillon, the number 61 Ferrari, which you can see even at the reduced pace still is moving around on him. Off and into the gravel, I'm afraid, goes Patrick Collins. He eventually will rejoin the tarmac, going to show how much the conditions have deteriorated, but thankfully the checkered flag is coming out, and for Graham Tilley it's a win, and that is his third overall win on the trot. And in second position, subject to official confirmation, that should give John Dillon the GT Cup Championship Sprint Series win for the 2020 season. So Graham Tilley claims the overall win, but in what are now very rainy conditions here at Donington Park, with all of the cars of course on slick tyres, and that's why we saw a few spins and grassy moments towards the end of it, including almost Graham Tilley, who, at this point of the circuit a lap ago, almost put the Nissan into the gravel trap. Just going to show how tricky it got towards the end there. For Graham Tilley, though, it's now 3 on the bounce in the 2020 GT Cup Championship, and what's been a real feast and famine season really for Godzilla, as it's known, the Nissan, flashing his lights to thank the marshals for their hard work as he heads round through McLean's corner for the final time on his slowing down lap. So Graham Tilley will be as pleased as punch with the win. John Dillon, the number 61 Ferrari, will be as pleased as punch, subject to official confirmation that he may well be able to lift the crown for the GT Cup Sprint Championship for 2020. There was just that little bit of what looked like the lightest of contacts between himself and John Seal. There didn't look to be any intention with that, and I'm sure the result will stand for John Dillon, but subject to official confirmation, it does look as though the championship crown for the Sprint Championship is going his way. Confirmation of the results then. Graham Tilley claims the win with John Dillon in second place, and the Group GTB win goes the way of Sam Randon in third position. Fourth place, and the Group GTA win is Harry Dawes. Fifth place in the Group GTH win goes the way of Matt Topham, with sixth place being completed by Josh Jackson. Seventh place was the number 1 car, the reigning champions of John Whitehouse. Eighth place was Warren Gilbert. Ninth place was Ian Logging. Completing the top 10 was James Guess. 11th in the end, Charlotte Gilbert, losing time in the closing stage of the race. 12th place goes the way of Richard Marsh, with 13th place being Stephen Walton. 14th place, Craig Wilkins after his spin on the final lap. 15th was Chris Murphy, and in 16th position, that was another car that had problems in the tricky conditions. 17th place, we saw the spin on the very final lap for Patrick Collins. 18th place goes the way of Alex Stevenson. 19th place in the end, following his 2 spins and a quick trip into the pit lane as well, was number 55 John Seal. And the one car that didn't take the checkered flag was David Franklin, who brought about what was that safety car period. So that is all for the moment from the GT Cup Championship here at Donington Park. Remember, it is the final round of the 2020 Championship season, but the dates for the 2021 season have already been announced. We will be back here for the opening round on the Donington National Circuit, which is what we're on this weekend, on the 10th and 11th of April. And probably the highlight of the season will be the second weekend of racing for the 2021 season. Early part of May, the 1st and 2nd of May, at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit, where the GT Cup Championship will be supporting the World GT Challenge Europe. So those are the 2021 dates. That's all for the moment, though, from Donington Park. It's goodbye.